Hello guys, welcome to today's video. So today we'll be seeing some of the good practices that you need to follow while writing C# code. So normally while writing a piece of code, there might be different kinds of exceptions that are possible. So we will try to use this try catch block to catch those exceptions. But we will use the try catch block, but what we used to end up doing is we end up using a generic exception object to catch all kinds of exception. So this is not a good way of writing a code. This is true that those exceptions will be caught by this catch block, but we will not get much information about that exception which is actually occurring. Since this exception object is kind of a base class for all the custom exceptions, we might not be getting the relevant exception information so that we will get to know what is the actual issue in the particular code. So what we can do is, or we have to do is, we have to use a specific exception object to catch. So means if you are writing that particular piece of code, you are aware that what all kinds of exceptions are possible in that particular piece of code. So if you are aware of that, try to use the that specific exception objects in the catch block so that you can extract much more information out of that exception object, and that would be much more helpful in debugging the code or knowing what is the root cause of that exception. So this is the first point. The second is the memory leak part, which can occur in a C# code. So normally we are aware of the garbage collector, which is there in our .NET runtime, which tries to clear up the memory which is not used or which is not referred by your application. So we are not controlling the garbage collector. So we don't know when that particular memory will be released. So to the best way to code is we should have the control, or we should know when a particular resource needs to be released. For example, if you are using some resource handle, some external resource handle you are using, and you are creating that resource handle and doing some perform operations on that resource handle, and you forgot to release the memory. That often happens in the code. In this particular example that I have used is of a list object. Here I'm creating a list object and doing some operation with the list object, but I'm not resetting the list object to null after my operation. So this can cause a potential memory leak. Not so in this case of list, but in case of an external resource object, this can lead to a memory leak. So what we can do is we can use a using block. If you are using some external resource object to open a connection, you need to open a database connection, etc. If you are using, then you try to use this using block. So what this using block ensures is that whenever the scope of this using blocks ends, whatever object that is being created in the beginning of the using block, that will be automatically disposed at the end, and its memory will be released. So this will prevent the possible memory leaks which will be there in our application. If you are certain that this particular resource object is only should only exist till that point, then you can certainly go ahead and use the using block. So the other thing is that the string operations or string concatenation operation that I have already discussed in my previous video. You can check that out in my channel. So what this talks about is when we perform any string manipulation operation, since the string, as you already know, that string is an immutable object, you can't edit the value of a particular string object in that memory. So what this string manipulation operations will do is it will try to create another string object in the memory and try to copy the value from the previous string object to the new string object and try to perform operations on that. For each manipulation operation, as you can see in this loop, results in a new string object being created in the memory, which is memory inefficient, and it will also take a lot of time. Time it will this particular code also will the runtime will be more for this particular piece of code. So what we can do is, as an alternative, is to use a string builder object. Okay, what string builder is, it is an efficient form. It is an efficient way to perform the string manipulation. Your string builder generally uses a character array so that it is much more efficient compared to using the string as it is. So if you are trying to use a extensive or a large string operation which is inside a loop statement like this, try to use a string builder so that the operation will be much more faster and efficient. Last but not the least, it is the humble null check. So in many of our application code, we might be calling a particular function that might be returning some object back, and we might be using that particular object to access some other member of that particular object. But what we end up forgetting is that we forget to check the null of that particular, if that object is null or not. So this can potentially cause a null reference exception risk, as you can see in the line number 66. So if the name is null, this can lead to a null reference exception during the runtime. What is an alternative is whenever we get some object back by calling a particular function, it is always recommended to check if the particular object is null or not. If it is not null, and then you try to access the members of that particular object. If it is null, you actually give some error or warning to the user or log that particular entry that that particular object is null. So the developer of that particular application will know that this object is null, and he can actually abort further operations. He should not proceed with the further operations if that particular object is null. So the other way to check the null is null conditional operator. You can just use this question mark dot. So what this is, when the name is null, it will not go ahead and access the length property of the same object. Instead, this name length will be initialized with 0. That's what happens. So that's major things that I want to discuss here. These are the four basic things. There are much more things that you need to take care while writing a C sharp code. If you have any more good points in your mind, please do comment in the comment box below, so that it will be helpful for the other viewers as well. So please, if you like this particular video, please do like this particular video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Thank you.